Hello, welcome to this episode number 30 of the RDO podcast. The big 3-0, the Dirty 30.
Dirty 30.
How are you, brother?
Not great.
Not great. Tell me about it.
Oh, I think I had too many beers last night.
Right.
So I've been reducing my alcohol intake.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a bit of an event a bit of an online event on Call of Duty.
Right.
With some of the boys, because there was a new season that's opened up. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Stayed up till midnight, which is way past my bedtime.
Right, yeah.
And had some cans. But I don't think that was a problem. I woke up feeling quite good, but the issue I had was at 6 a.m. I thought it would be wiser for me to take a vitamin B tablet.
Yeah.
Because it usually makes me recover faster of a hangover.
If you've got no food in your stomach there, they can...
Yeah, correct. You're supposed to have food in your stomach. So I drove here today with the window and the windows down, the sunroof open, with basically my head out the window, and I smashed a croissant. Let's see if that.
I'm noticing a bit of a theme that maybe because we tend to chop and change the days that we record on based on schedules and stuff like that, and I feel like 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning might not be the right time to record for you anymore.
It's a terrible time. It's a terrible time. Because I like to do cool things.
I'll have to sort something out. So we will be recording on Friday next week.
Yes, that's
we've got something very special coming for all of you out there. Just to, again, because we started last week's episode with a couple of shout-outs. I want to start this episode with a shout-out, and I want to read out the comment of the week from last week. Because thank you for all of your interactions on YouTube. I didn't check it this morning, but when I had a look, it might have been a day or two ago, we're up to 1,500 impressions on last week's video. So again, the week before, 81 total, and it's just stopped there. So it's interesting how these comments and the interaction that we're getting, look, not only are helping us with the algorithm with YouTube, but it's actually some really interesting stuff that's coming through it as well. So I do encourage you again this week, join the conversation because it's been really interesting.
Say anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. But our comment of the week coming from our friend Good and Loud, who is a very regular contributor. So I just want to read it out and then maybe we can discuss a few things on it. So his comment was, interesting thoughts on religion. I'd have to disagree though, as people existed before religion, had established laws before religion, and this suggests that we didn't need that framework to establish right and wrong. We were able to govern ourselves. I support it gives people comfort to know they're heading somewhere and support morals, but I feel it was established to explain the unexplainable. If you look through Greek mythology, the gods were created to explain lightning, death in volcanoes, etc., that we could not comprehend at the time. Notice how those gods aren't worshipped now that we have an explanation. Death and the afterlife is still the unknown, as is creation, so we need something to plug the gap. We inherently fear the unknown. We don't fear the dark, more the unseen that could be in it. I also enjoyed the we can't have no carbon or the plants will die, laughing emoji. Plants have existed before animal life and I'm sure will survive after. The goal is not to eliminate carbon completely, more reduce and / collect the additional carbon we make to reuse. Good pod though, interesting topics. So out of that, the thing I really liked was when you brought up Greek mythology, because I think that's so true and it's so accurate. You know, we do fear the unknown. We do want to explain things that we can't explain. So if we can find something to believe in, it sort of makes us more comfortable with the idea.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit on there were laws before religion. I don't think there's any evidence of that.
I did leave a comment back to this on YouTube last week because I agree. What I basically said was you would have to agree that societies after religion has come in, apart from the ones who apart from pushing your values on other religions, but societies that have come after religion was created are probably more civilized than societies before that.
Maybe we shouldn't use the term religion. Maybe we should use a belief system, because I think if you went back through all of time, there were belief systems which we would tend to call a religion by today's standards. Back to African tribes worshipping a certain deity is a religion. So I don't know if there's any evidence of laws prior to a belief system.
Yeah, true. Look, we'll never know, right?
And the carbon thing. So, yeah, I'm not worried about the plants not growing. There has been more carbon in the earth, on planet Earth, than what we have today, by a massive multiplier. And I agree with you, we do need to figure out what we're doing with it. I just hate to go to all that trouble, spend all that money, lose all those jobs, and then have a volcano go off, and then usually reset the clock.
That's right, because I feel like you're exactly right. Like, we're probably not ever concerned about going to zero carbon emissions. However, I'm sure Mother Nature or Earth or whatever you want to call it, being an organism, would go, oh, my carbon levels are too low now. Let's find an additional way to get some carbon into the atmosphere. So I'll create another active volcano.
Or even if it doesn't, it's not working like a natural cycle. If that happens, if it's big enough, we're back to square one.
Yeah. So anyway,
but it was great. It's a really nice. It was a good conversation. It was a good thought piece. It did get us thinking. We love it.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah, keep it coming.
Absolutely, keep them
Bring
coming.
it on. But and that comment, we can't stress enough how important the comments are. The fact that we can go from 80 impressions to 1,500 impressions, just because we're having a little conversation in the comments, it helps us out.
That's right.
It's free. Just do it.
Yep.
Just write
helps
something.
Us out.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, again, it's probably not a coincidence we picked up an extra subscriber this week. So obviously we've only got a small amount at the moment, but any extra subscribers that we can pick up are going to assist us, because that means more weekly views and, hopefully more interactions and, and it's going to grow. So again, we really appreciate all your help so far, and if you could keep the support up, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So I also, in response to another fan question, I've booked in my DEXA scan for next Tuesday.
Right.
And to celebrate booking in my DEXA scan, I yesterday ate KFC, a bag of CCs, and a Maxi Bon.
Maxi Bon, nice.
Yeah, it was really good too.
Yeah,
I haven't had a Maxi Bon for probably years, but it was really nice. So yeah, that's booked in for Tuesday. So if I get some results, if I have a slightly higher body fat percentage, I've already built in my excuse today of it was all based on what I had on Friday.
Slightly higher than what?
So yeah, like I was asked to sort of make a prediction of what I think. I think my body fat percentage would be somewhere between 20 and 25%.
I think it's way more than that.
Why?
Because I think, unlike elite athletes, 10%, like elite athletes, 10%.
It depends what sport you're in, but yeah. Like the actual Shred City guys are like 5, like bodybuilders and stuff at shows and stuff.
So you're not that?
No, I'm definitely not that. The reason...
And you're not elite athlete?
No, I'm not.
So that's the 10%er?
The reason why I'm thinking 20 to 25% is that I hold weight typically in my gut, but I hold very little fat elsewhere in my body. So, and again, I could be dead wrong.
I think it's 30%.
You think it's 30%? Okay, so prediction.
Unders.
So yeah, unders overs, and I can share the results next week.
Everyone put your number down, what do you think?
Yeah, throw on the comments what percentage of body fat you think I am. I'll give you, I memean the audio listeners can't see this, but like...
It looks like 30 for the audio listeners, so write down 30. Write down 30.
There we go.
30's a safe bet.
There you go. That's that might be the thumbnail right there, I think. YouTube might auto generate that thumbnail. But yeah, so that's booked in for Tuesday. So I'm
going to get one done.
You're going to have to get one done.
I'll try and get one done next week as well.
So also put in the comments what you think Alex's percentage is going to be.
I think I'll be more.
More than 30?
And more than you.
I'd say it's probably right.
Yeah, which is a shame because it's the first time in my life I've been heavier than you.
Yeah, it's probably sad too because you're heavier than me, but I've been lifting weights for longer than you too. So I think the fat content is going to be high. But we never know.
Less weight.
Well, you never know until you actually get these things done. So, and they're actually not as expensive as I thought. Like, I was thinking it was going to be like $100 and something, $75.
Yeah.
And if you go any additional times within the next 12 months to sort of keep track of where you're at, they only charge you $55. So, that's pretty good.
Reasonable.
And it's probably like a pretty good thing to do, you know, as a couple of blokes in their 30s. Like, we're on that tipping point of where, your metabolism slowed down 10 years ago, and then now it's like, if you don't do something now before you turn 40, then it becomes harder again once you are 40 to actually correct your habits. And
I'm noticing how hard it is now compared to, like, the progression that I used to get when I go to the gym as a younger man, compared to what it is now. Like, I'm progressing at a snail's pace now compared to what it used to before.
I mean, a lot of it comes down to testosterone. Like, I think men's testosterone peaks when you're about 19 years old. And obviously you can manipulate in certain ways, but naturally you sort of peak at around 19 years old, and it gradually starts to come down from there. And testosterone, the number one thing that changes with you being able to train is how fast you recover. So that's the, like, a lot of people go, oh, if you take steroids you can lift more weight. Well, it's not really that. It's just that you can recover faster, which means you can train more often and train harder, which therefore allows you to have more progression in a faster rate. And that's what I notice these days, is that my recovery time is so much longer than it used to be. Because I sort of stopped doing the weights for about 2 months when I was sick. And I did a squat session on Tuesday, and even yesterday, being Friday, I was still walking funny. Whereas it used to be like I'd feel maybe ordinary the next day. On some extreme cases, I'd get DOMS on day 2, but a lot of the times I just wouldn't, and I'd be ready to train again 2 days later. Now it's 4 days later, and like, I feel good this morning, probably because I had my first decent sleep of the week last night. I had 9 hours with 1 interruption, which is me getting up to pee last night.
Yeah, see, that's beautiful. That's golden. Less than my average, and I had my worst sleep. Oh, when I say worst sleep, my shortest sleep. Yeah. Going to bed after 12 and then waking up at 6.
Yeah, true.
Morning.
Yeah,
less than half a sleep for me.
Yeah, that's a good one for me at the moment. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the results are. Put in the comments body fat percentages. Because they give you, I think the readings are body fat, lean muscle mass, and bone density.
Isn't visceral fat a separation between visceral fat and some other fat?
I don't know. I'm not sure. They might we'll depend on where you go as well.
We'll go
yeah, but it'll be interesting. Because the other thing that I'm interested in too is bone density. Because again, that's something else that as you age, your bone density tends to decrease. It's something that weight training is very important for. Is it actually, like, a lot of people think you just build muscles? Well, it actually helps build your bone density as well, because your skeleton is your framework that holds all the muscles on it. So if there is more load on the skeletal framework, then it will also build and improve too. Sure. Which again, super important as you age. It's one of the reasons why older people unfortunately have issues when they have a fall. Because number one, they don't have the muscle mass to catch themselves. And number two, because they haven't had that muscle mass for such a long period of time, you get bone deterioration as well, which means things break easier. So very, very important. Anyone who is not doing any form of exercise or training at all, regardless of what age you are, you should just start doing something.
So I'm that guy. I was that guy, and I made the excuse a couple of years ago that I think the last time I was really doing something was when I was playing basketball. And I was really enjoying it. I was in pretty good shape. And then I just stopped because I was too busy. Yeah. And I'm even noticing now, trying to deadlift, the weight I can do, my hands can't.
Yeah, your grip strength can't keep up with it.
Yeah, I can't grip the bar for long enough to finish 3 sets.
Yep.
And that's plays with me psychologically too, because I'm like, that's a real issue to me.
Yeah.
Where that if you have to rely on your grip, and chances are in a jam, you're going to have to rely on your grip strength, and if it's not there, it's not there.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that. Definitely working on that.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and because obviously, growing up as a man or as a bloke and as decent sized guys, I had never truly felt vulnerable in my entire life until I tore my ACL 4 years ago now. And I'll always remember this moment that it clicked where, so I used to live in Labrador, which is not the nicest neighbourhood. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's not a nice neighbourhood. And I would get home from work and it would usually be dark, 7:30 at night. and I would used to take my dog for a walk because the dog parked just up the street from us. And my current wife, Amanda, used to say to me, I can't believe that you do that. Because it's not like... It's
dark.
It's dark. It's not well lit. There's like maybe one or two sort of lights in there, but it's trees everywhere. It's a really, really big park. Yeah. And the weird thing is when you're wandering around it at night time and when you see like a single bloke in there with no dog, like that, then that happens. And then you just go...
Could be dogging.
Could be. Yeah, could be. Absolutely. But that is sort of the thing. So anyway, I used to do this all the time. Was never concerned about it at all. And then I did my knee, and all of a sudden, I couldn't move. Like anywhere, I mean, because I've always been fairly athletic, fairly capable, I just pretty much couldn't move at that point. And I remember when I had done the surgery and was just starting to get back into all the rehab stuff, because it took me forever to actually be able to walk long distances properly.
Yeah.
And I remember taking my dog to the dog park one night, and I was wandering around, and I was like, I feel vulnerable for the first time in my entire life. This is what it feels like to be a woman walking the streets at night time. Yeah. I felt it for the first time.
Yeah.
And I never want to feel like that ever again. So that's why, I mean, for me, getting back into training has been so important. Because number one, the reason why I did my knee in the first place was because I was just like you. I used the excuse that I was too busy because I was working 10 hours a day plus commuting. And... You know, I mean, I had weekends and stuff like that where I could have done stuff on, but I was always too tired. And I was probably too tired because I wasn't doing any sort of training or anything like that. And the problem was I had let the strength of my body deteriorate to a point, and then I started the ball rolling on my knee playing basketball. That was when I first tweaked it. And again, it was because my head still thought I could do certain things, which my body couldn't keep up with. And then I tweaked my knee. Because the structures around it weren't strong enough and that sort of thing to actually maintain it. So, number one, I never want to get an injury like that again because it literally set me back 3 years as far as like training and just being fit and healthy goes. It set me back 3 years. Are you going to
tell the viewers what actually snapped it? Because it wasn't sport.
Well...
Was it? It wasn't sport, was it?
No, well they...
No,
the surgeon... The surgeon thought that it was the basketball incident which snapped my ACL, but then because I didn't... So, okay, I'll start at the beginning. So...
No, you don't need to start at the beginning. All you need to do is tell us when it went pop, because I heard it.
Well, yeah, okay.
Where were we?
We were...
Not on the basketball court.
We were not on the basketball court. We had travelled to Sydney to watch Jerry Seinfeld live.
Yeah. Great show.
It was a fantastic
shout out
show.
To Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, so Jerry, if you want to come on the podcast, you just let us know, mate.
Yeah.
We can even do it in a car if you want. So we had gone to see Jerry Seinfeld live, and then we caught up with our friend Emily. So shout out to Emily too.
Yeah.
And we went to the casino, and
after a few other
venues, and I was blind. And I feel like perhaps it may have gone because of the additional walks back and forth between the casino floor and the ATM that I had to go to.
But also the fact that we were walking back to the apartment, and I said, "Okay, I'm going in a room," and you said, "No, I'm going for McDonald's."
It had already gone at this point, so it went when we were at the casino.
Yeah, but we were staying at Circular Quay, so people that know Sydney, it's where Circular Quay is, where the wharf is. It's steep up to
it's very
steep. Go. So I'm like, nah, man, like, and he's limping. I'm like, nah, man, you don't need McDonald's, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Let's go to bed.
Yeah, so...
Didn't do it.
No, because I was blind and I was upset because my knee was, like, at this point, already starting to expand.
Yeah.
I wandered down the very, very steep hills to get some Maccas.
So there's a reason why he doesn't want to be like that.
But... The first part that it went... So the surgeon believed that my ACL at least partially tore playing basketball. And you'll remember because you were at the game, weren't you?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I also heard the pop. And the pop at McDonald's was worse than the pop.
Yes. It was pretty bad. So yeah, I never want that to happen ever again. So yeah, training and stuff, super important. Get into it right now, regardless of how old you are. You know, we've got some older viewers and some older listeners that follow the podcast. You guys should be doing stuff too. My mother-in-law actually has just gone, she's taking part in it's like a trial / uni focus group sort of thing about bone density, and they've done like some scans and stuff on it. And then I think they've got two groups, and one of them is doing weight bearing exercise, which is the one that she's in, and another one is I can't remember what the other one's doing, but they're tracking them over a period of time. Then they're going to like do the scans and stuff again and see what the results are. So I'll get those results too, and I'll share them on here as well.
So we had shifting gears. We had a question posed to us by one of the viewers, and it's a question that's come up a few times, and I think the reason why it's slightly pertinent now is that some people in question have come back to the fray. So basically the question was, can you separate the art from the artist? So what does that mean? Can you still listen to Michael Jackson music having known what he was alleged to have done? So I thought we would spitball that idea for a little while.
So there's, again, you're right. Like I think one of the prompts is obviously Chris D'Elia emerging from the wilderness.
Yep.
After about 6 months out after his allegations.
More than that, maybe 12 months.
Actually, probably is. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Because so for me, COVID's kind of a black spot. Like I sort of forget how everything just shut down last year. So it's like that time doesn't even exist anymore.
It's the new normal.
It's the new norm, yeah. But yeah, so there's like obviously the Chris D'Elia thing.
So if you don't know, Chris D'Elia is a comedian. He basically got called out by a load of women because he was quite... the women were very young.
Yeah.
And it appeared that he had had relations with younger girls. Not proven, no complaints have been filed.
Yeah. But
he does like young girls.
Yeah. So the allegations were of like grooming. Yeah. Again, not proven or anything like that. But look, let's start with that for a start. It would be a very, very difficult place to be for anyone who is accused, regardless of whether you're guilty or innocent. Because in this day and age, it's very, very tough to, like, everything's so touchy.
Well, let's not divert.
Okay.
The question is, so will you listen to Chris D'Elia's comedy?
I will.
Yeah. Okay, but someone worse. So Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby's the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Or one of the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
He's done some horrific things.
Yep.
Is he still funny?
Yeah.
I agree. And this is... I'll say why I think so. A lot of art forms, and I say art forms because I mean everything to do with art, usually resonates with people, I believe, because it shows something that you would not have created yourself, and you would not have expected.
Yeah.
Okay? So it comes from a different place. So if the majority of society is going one way, and then there's a minority of people going the other way, they'll probably show you something that you've not ever seen before.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I don't want to say that you have to be an evil person to create art. That's like... And anyone that commits a crime should be held accountable for their crime. Okay? But you can still appreciate... I think an advanced civilization would appreciate the difference between the person that did it and the art itself.
Yeah.
So, Cosby's jokes are still funny. Louis C.K.'s jokes...
Still funny.
Are still funny. Michael Jackson's music is still good. They've just done some horrible things. Yeah,
and it's that whole thing of, I guess, there's a fine line between genius and insanity.
Yeah.
And like, this doesn't even have to be about artists. Like, I'm one of those people who I've always been able to separate not even the art from the artist, but the person from the job. So to give you an example, in a practical sense, I have worked in the past for managers who I like as a person, but I think they're terrible at their job. And I have said as much, and I have, done, I've made complaints or whatever, but I'm like, this is a person who, if I never worked with them, I could have a beer with them in the street and have a great time. Because as a person, I really enjoy them. But as in the job, they're terrible at it. And I feel like there should be someone else who's better at it doing that particular job. So, in that way, I can separate the person from their profession. In an art space, I mean, you even look at like heavy metal music's a very good example. Like someone who is screaming in heavy metal music, that's not something you see or you even, like, if you do see it in the wild, in public, you don't gravitate towards that. You don't gravitate...
Something's usually going wrong.
That's right. So you don't gravitate towards a person screaming in the street because you're like, oh, there's potentially a danger there. But I think heavy metal music resonates with a lot of people because it hits something primal inside us where we're like, you know, we as human beings, we feel anger, we feel rage sometimes. So it kind of half gives you an outlet to be able to express those feelings that you feel in yourself.
Yeah, but it takes mainstream feeling.
No, that's right. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to put themselves out there to express those feelings in a public forum and be judged on those. So, yeah, look, I think the you know, Chris D'Elia, I always found him really, really funny. Ironically, one of his funniest things I've ever seen him in was when he was on Workaholics, which is an episode now that's banned from all the networks, where he literally plays a pedophile on Workaholics. It was hilarious. The way he did it was so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that episode. And obviously I watched it before all this stuff came out. But it was so funny. And if you can find it, just watch it.
I think it's on YouTube. I think it's
right,
on YouTube.
It's gold, right? It's gold. But, and look, it's making light of a very sensitive subject. Like, you know, obviously we're not pro-pedophiles by any stretch of the imagination. But joking about it at least gets people talking about it in the public space too.
Yeah, I think you should be able to joke about anything.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that's who's the most heinous, I suppose, throughout all time.
Look, Bill Cosby's the worst. Like, Bill Cosby
in modern times
is the worst because they actually think that he might statistically be the most prolific rapist of the modern era.
Right. Not the stigma you want attached.
No.
To yourself.
No, that's right. And I mean, like, look back through, like, historical figures. Like, look at Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan gets celebrated for his achievements. He banged everyone. Like, what's the percentage of the population that I think
12%.
12% of the population can be traced back to one dude?
Yeah. I think he, don't forget, but by landmass, the Genghis Khan was the greatest ruler. The largest empire by landmass.
Yeah.
The largest empire by people was the British Empire.
Right.
And they do some nasty stuff too.
Yeah. And yeah, look, that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, I think what we need to actually remember as a society is that no one is perfect.
Yep.
And anyone who gets put up as some sort of holier than thou deity, there will be skeletons in the closet.
Oh, I like what you said. You've said it before about let's stop aspiring to. Oh, let's stop listening to what a footballer has to say.
Yeah, stop putting athletes out there like they're some sort of moral role model. You're not. You're just really good at a sport.
Yeah.
And again, you can have an opinion on stuff. That's cool. Let's stop putting so much gravity in what they say.
Yeah.
Like,
because we know you did it for the boys. We know that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And look, the other thing too is like, you've also got this thing where not only are we asking people who don't know about a particular subject what their thoughts are on the subject, oftentimes their answer to that question is formulated by their publicist and handed to them. So it's not even a real opinion anyway.
It is.
And usually all it is my opinion is in line with the mainstream ideas on this at this point in time, and I'm going to leave myself an out clause just in case that changes in the future.
So it's funny that you mentioned that because there was that guy, I can't remember his... Alistair... okay, anyway, I can't remember his name. He did a video of what Chris D'Elia should have done.
Right, yeah.
Publicly. And one of the things that you brought up was now in the internet age... So back before, if a scandal came out, if it wasn't true, you just did nothing.
Yeah.
Let the news cycle past you.
That's right.
But he made a really interesting point that if, let's say, if a mainstream media outlet calls you out on something, then the second tier news outlets will pick it up next, and then the bloggers will pick it up next, and we'll get it next, right? And there's 4 or 5 layers,
and they're saved forever on the internet for people to refer back to. And if you do a search,
if you do nothing about it, it's at the top.
That's right.
So that is something I'd never, ever considered before.
Mm.
And he was like, you need to attack.
Yeah.
And I think in his case too, because he didn't... Sure, what he did was deemed in society as not very nice by literally texting 50 girls, a night every show that he had, and sleeping with them, is not a nice thing to talk about. Everyone was complicit in it. It's not that was not an evil thing, so it shouldn't have cost him a year of his life. Now, he's dealing with it through, he realised he's got an addiction. So that maybe that's a good part out of it, is that he's realised that he's got an addiction and he's working on it, so he's seeking some counselling for that, so that is a good thing.
Which is something that I think I mentioned to you earlier in the week when we sort of discussed this, when you put the video out, is I was always... Like, comedians talk about it all the time. Comedy can generally come from a dark place. Now, Chris D'Elia had a very, good upbringing, a loving family. Rich family. So it's sort of like, there's probably not that... I mean, there'll be some level of darkness there, but... or some level of needing to be heard, which is why he's gone into that sort of profession in the first place. But it's been widely publicised for a long time that he doesn't drink, that he doesn't take drugs, and the whole thing was that, comedy is the drug. And as someone who I've been victim of many vices in the past, I still am now, but I understand what sort of control vices can have over you. Like, I've gone through phases where I've drank too much. I've gone through phases where I've gambled too much. But I've been, I guess, cognitively aware enough to go, okay, this is too far now, and I'll pull it back. So... I always wondered what his real vice was, and he used to say his real vice was comedy, which is why he used to perform every night, and now he's come out and gone, well, I think the real vice really was the attention he was getting from his comedy, which was allowing him to sleep with girls every single night of his entire life, which is why he performed so much.
Yeah.
But even out of that too, you're right, society ethically goes, oh, that's not right that he's messaging all these girls, but let's not pretend too that, people are attracted to people of status.
Sure.
So let's not pretend that some of these girls aren't sliding into his DMs. I'm sure he's not just going to a different state and then trying to see who's around him and then add those people. I'm sure he goes, hey guys, I'm playing a show in Dallas. And then all these girls in Dallas go, hey, I'm in Dallas, let's hang out, into his DMs, and then he just selects from there. He just archives them in. Yeah, and again, it's something that, even I go, I'm 32. The thought of kicking around with teenage girls as a 32-year-old guy, I'm just it just doesn't interest me at all. But I know that for a lot of guys it does. I mean, he's 40, I think, now? Yeah. Even that in itself, I just go, I guess, me personally...
Everyone's got a kink.
Everyone's got a kink, that's right. And, I don't know, I think I find it difficult sometimes to converse with people who are in different life phases to me, because I can't resonate with what's bothering them is different.
He wasn't talking, and it was not. It was obviously a physical thing, not a
yeah.
He wasn't having a relationship.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But look, I guess getting back to your original point, I still find his comedy really funny.
He's hilarious.
And the thing is that again, we've got to stop pretending that in this day and age that everyone should be perfect, because we're not. One of my biggest concerns at the moment is that we are trying to pretend that everyone should be the same. We used to actually celebrate diversity. Australia is a multicultural country. We celebrate the fact that on any given night you can go out and get food from any corner of the world. You can get Chinese, you can get, Middle Eastern food, you can whatever you want. Do we really want all of that to just be sausage and bread?
Well, going back to the ancient gods, the Greek gods, the thing about that system is that they showed the fallibilities in the human psyche.
Agreed. Yeah.
All those traits are traits that the human has.
Norse mythology was the same too. Yeah. So Odin, who is, basically the god of wisdom, he was seeking wisdom even though he was so imperfect.
Yeah.
And all the stories around him are like he was like a philanderer and all these things, which are obviously seen as imperfect human traits. But out of like through all of that, he was learning and trying to seek wisdom and like trying to figure out what the real meaning of life was.
Yeah.
Whereas you're right, maybe it's because we live in a Western society which is primarily based on a Christian culture, where we've got this one all-powerful, all-seeing, almighty God who is perfect, and we're trying to hold everyone to the same standard.
Yeah.
But the thing is too, like anyone who slings mud at someone for doing something, like look, if you like you said, if someone does a crime, they should be prosecuted, and they should, to the fullest extent of the law, they should be.
Doesn't matter how good an artist they are, they should be.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But if someone does something that you might be on an ethical borderline, a grey area like the Chris D'Elia thing, where obviously he just liked young girls. Did he ever knowingly court or sleep with someone who was underage? Not judging by the receipts that everyone has on that matter, but ethically he's on the borderline of what people think is right and wrong. Like, if you throw mud at him, you better be perfect.
Yeah.
You better be.
Unfortunately, there's an industry around building, and that's what this guy was coming out and saying.
Yeah.
Attack.
Yeah.
Attack back, and he had every right to attack back because the stuff was not.
And interestingly enough, now that I really think about it, someone who got Me Too'd at a similar time was Brian Callen.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Callen, he attacked.
Yeah.
And he's already back on his podcast.
Yeah, well, he's been basically working almost the entire time.
That's right. And again, like, and the other thing too, and the flow-on effect from it as well is, unfortunately, being that those guys are in show business, a lot of Chris D'Elia's friends distanced themselves from him publicly when this all happened. Which again, I think is like, surely you guys would have known him, you would have known the bloke, and you would have known whether or not he was actually doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
So if you thought that he was a piece of shit, you shouldn't have been mates with him in the first place.
Yeah.
If you knew he wasn't a piece of shit and hadn't done anything legally wrong,
have his back.
You should have backed him.
Yeah.
But everyone's too worried about themselves.
But that Hollywood microcosm, that's a different world. It's an incestuous world. Everyone, it's all dirty, but everyone has to act nice, and I don't think that's a good example of.
Yeah, because it's all based around people pleasing. It's like, I need people to like me, otherwise I won't get shows, I won't get gigs, I won't get parts in a movie.
Do you think in an alternate universe, Chris D'Elia's taken down cougars? And he's ringing them on the rotary dial telephone every night?
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And do you think,
I'm sure there is one.
Do you think anyone would care if that were the case?
No.
Do you know there's this comedian that comes to town, right? He comes to town, and he literally goes through the yellow pages and dials 50 middle-aged women.
It'd be the white pages, wouldn't
White
it?
pages,
Yeah.
50...
Do you guys even know what the yellow pages and the white pages are?
Middle-aged women, and hooks up with them. It's disgusting. It is abhorrent behaviour. No one would say that.
We like, getting back to some other artists, like, Amanda and I were thinking of, like, one of our wedding songs we were considering was The Way You Make Me Feel by Michael Jackson. Now, he could have been singing that as a kid. But we were considering having that song at the most important day of our lives. Like, because the banger. It's a great song.
It is a great song. It is a great song. So yeah, I think I definitely can, and I think you can too, separate the art from the artist. And I think we should in you know, and like you said about work colleagues, you know, well, maybe with friends too. There's probably some friends that you have that you don't necessarily want to have a drink with, but you want to go karting with. Do that, you know. And if there's someone that it's okay. You don't have to like everything.
No.
And as long as it's safe and as long as they're not dangerous.
This is what real...
Everyone's got a friend that likes to party harder than everyone else.
Well, yeah.
And you just know nothing good happens after 10 o'clock together. Right?
And look, this is where it comes down to real, true acceptance, but also personal responsibility. Because I think one of the things that, you know, that partying guy, a really good example is... that partying guy is often the person that people blame when they're like, oh, I drank too much last night and I feel like shit because Alex just didn't want to stop. He just kept buying me drinks, and it's like if you wanted to stop, you could have stopped. Yeah. Like, the fact that you're saying that means I'm a slave to my surroundings, I take no personal responsibility for my actions. Like, number one, have some personal accountability.
No, but I don't think, so anyone that says that, they don't really believe it. They're like, I'm so glad that guy was there. Like, in their saying...
I thought you meant saying have personal accountability, not the, like, I blame that guy.
They blame the guy, but they don't blame
They blame him for having a great night.
Yeah.
But also...
But in context, don't go out with that friend every weekend if you can't handle it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Understand and be open and have that conversation with that person and say, dude, like, I love partying with you once a year.
Yeah.
But that's
because it takes me 364 days to recover again.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But see, this is also...
And just like when that person wants to play board games, that person should be able to ring you up and say, hey, I want to play board games with you once a year.
Yeah, exactly right. But this is another thing too about true acceptance of people. So what I find interesting in today's social climate is, like, in the quest for acceptance and diversity, we're creating more division than we've ever had before. And like I was saying before, like about we should be celebrating people's differences. We should be celebrating cultural differences because we get a lot of benefit from diversity, like diversifying a share portfolio. Like, all of them bring good things to the table, and we should be championing and celebrating those things. I don't want everyone else to be just like me. Do you know how boring that would be?
It goes back to that movie, the Fat Pizza movie. Literally making fun of every single... like, race,
stereotype.
Color, creed. Stereotype.
Yeah.
But embracing it.
Yeah. That's right. Because, like, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. Because people, like, as a human being, we can see trends. It's why people, invest on the stock market and stuff like that, because they look at trends.
Yeah.
We do that with people every single day as well. And again, we should be embracing the differences.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is that we seem to, we go through these stages where, we embrace this certain thing from a certain culture, and then yet we're trying to push down something from somewhere else. And it's like, well, no. Like, joke about everything, embrace everything, like, support everything. Like, it's just, people are different, and that's a good thing.
And that's fine. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah.
Exactly right, because, I mean, the world would be a very boring place.
I don't know if the divisiveness is as bad as what you see on TV. I genuinely don't...
It's TV and social media.
Yeah. Oh, social media. I was on the toilet this morning.
Mm-hmm. What were you doing?
Ones
or twos?
Twos.
Nice.
And I...
and they would have been like, were they solid, or were they...
I can't remember, because this
that really, means they weren't solid.
This really wound me up. So I had YouTube playing on my phone, and I was listening to a Flagrant 2 podcast.
Right.
That was talking about Coca-Cola, because they're in the news at the moment.
Oh, yeah. The Be Less White
And then
thing.
they joked about how Coke's trying all these different sugar replacements, and no one really wants it. They just want to put the sugar back in.
Mm-hmm. No, people want them to put the cocaine back in.
Yeah, and then
I'll start drinking Coke for breakfast again.
Facebook had 2 articles back to back. One was how Pepsi beat Coke, and the next one was a satirical article about the removal of sugar and replaced with all the other stuff.
Yep.
Now, I thought I opted out of targeted advertising on that.
Right.
But it was literally in real time listening to what my phone was saying. It had that data there.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean...
I wish my business was not on it.
Yeah, I know, and like I think the same thing. Like, I'd actually love to shut down my Facebook account, but it's a way that we interact with people because of the podcast too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's.
But I'm spending much less time on it. YouTube takes up. Like, I'm on YouTube.
I've switched a lot too. I watch a lot more stuff on YouTube than I ever have before. And again, I'll scroll through Facebook now out of interest. I like to leave the occasional joke on other people's posts and stuff like that, and have a little chuckle, and that's cool. But I just, I do see just divisiveness on every subject. And it's probably because they're the people who are willing to comment on big issues.
Don't bother commenting. You are doing nothing.
You'll change no one's mind.
You are achieving nothing.
Yeah. Like, I saw this post, and I thought it was interesting. I should have screenshot it, I should have sent it to you. But it was this lady who was apparently a journalist at some paper, and which obviously that indicates where their values lie, one way or the other. And it was a picture of her, and she was sitting here like this. Now, the first thing that struck me in this picture was that she had bare feet. Mm-hmm. Right? It actually struck me because, again, like, from a professional perspective, if you are a professional journalist or a professional of any kind, it's not normal to have a promotional photo of yourself with like corporate gear on but bare feet. Sure. It's not normal. So it struck me. And it was a short video, and
defeat. Carry on.
Yeah, that's why I focused on it so much. But the whole thing was focused on about how she deals with people who are conspiracy theorists. And it was about, she goes, and so instead of just trying to say that they're wrong, I asked them to explain their position to me in detail. And it was this whole thing of basically about, if you have a differing opinion to mine, you're a conspiracy theorist, and this is how I go to prove you wrong.
But at least her strat on how to do it creates an open dialogue.
No, but it doesn't. It's not an open dialogue if she has no intention on listening to understand.
But
it creates an ability for, she's got a word track she uses to manipulate you to either look silly or change your mind. But she's not listening to them to understand.
Open discourse is at least the first step.
True. But it's funny, isn't it, how, again, and this is probably a social media thing, or mainstream media too, but just having any difference of opinion now makes you a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be you had to have an extreme view on something. You used to have to believe in aliens and Area 51 to be a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Now it's, if you believe a certain thing about a political happening, you're a conspiracy theorist. And it's like, well, if you believe a certain thing about, like, COVID or the vaccine, you're a conspiracy theorist. Notwithstanding the fact that one of the reasons why there's potential misinformation out there is because Dr. Fauci from America, who is spearheading the COVID response, has flip-flopped on everything he said for the last 12 months. How are people supposed to actually come up with the right thing when the guy leading the way has changed his mind on everything? Mm. So if you guys haven't seen any of the stuff, he was one of the first people who said that you shouldn't wear a mask, which was 12 months ago he said that. And then he flip-flopped later on down the track saying that, I only said that you shouldn't wear a mask because I didn't want there to be mass buyouts of masks and our first responders couldn't have them. Mm. So again, he told people two conflicting stories. He was also saying at the time that there was no way that there was going to be a vaccine created before the end of the year. Like, he said that. And then towards the end of the year, when the election looked like it was going a certain way, all of a sudden was, yep, this vaccine's good to go. And it's, so again, he's actually spreading two different narratives, which could just be seen as covering both bases, sure. Right? But how are people supposed to come up with the proper, correct viewpoint when the person leading the charge is just playing both sides of the fence?
What I'd also say too, though, is using the term conspiracy theorist is I would deem now as a weak reply, a weak response to a conversation.
It's just used to discredit people.
Yeah.
It's like it's the new calling someone a racist.
Yeah.
Like if someone had a differing point of view, you'd call them a racist or a fascist 12 months ago, yeah. And that'd be your mic drop moment and you'd walk away because it's like I've said on the podcast before, instead of trying to have discussions over ideas and actually try to figure out the truth that we always ask for, the easiest way for me to win the argument is to discredit you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I play the man instead of playing the ball.
Yeah. Because
if you play the man, then all of a sudden if I can take you out...
Yeah, then it's moot.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that a lot. And the problem is, people fall for it.
Yeah.
People fall for it. Again, had another conversation during the week with someone who was like, I'm not going to get fooled by anything. Are you having dramas? Yeah. We'll be right back. Alright guys, we're back. Now, first of all, YouTubers, I want you to throw in the comments how much weight you think Alex just lost. Because judging by the relief on his face, it looks significant.
Yeah.
But secondly, this brought up something interesting for me too. And I want to know what your strategies are. Because, so, my brother just had to stop the podcast to drop his AGV.
Yeah.
Now I had to follow him because I also needed to do number ones.
Yeah.
Now, when you know that you're walking into a bathroom that's just been destroyed, do you breathe through your nose or do you breathe through your mouth?
Yeah, it's a funny one too. I always had that thought because, like, I don't want to smell it, so I'll taste it.
Yeah, I know. And it's so full disclosure, I held my breath for as long as I could, but it was a long stream, so I had to take a breath. So I chose to breathe through my mouth.
Yeah.
Now again, it's like your nose has got all like the hairs for filtering, but you can smell it. But your mouth doesn't, so I've got probably some of your poo particles in my mouth now.
I thought there was a study that said that. So they put like poo particle testing devices throughout a house,
Right?
and there's almost an equal spread across the whole house. So it's not.
Was that across your house
No,
or across someone else's house?
No.
Look, the number one carrier of poo particles would be your mobile phone.
The number two carrier.
Nice.
Oh, the phone.
Yeah.
Do you disinfect your phone? Put in the comments if you disinfect your phone. So I do it religiously.
I do it all the time, yeah.
I've got hand sanitizer sitting at my desk.
Yeah.
And I probably do it twice a day, just because I use it so much.
Yeah.
It's the most used item, so it needs to be protected.
Yeah, yeah. So
from me.
So again, in the comments, we want your strategies on what you do when you're following someone who's just destroyed a toilet, what you think our body fat percentages were at the beginning of the podcast, and how much weight you think Alex has lost now as well. These are the important things. These are the conversations that people only have in private that we need to actually bring out there into the world.
We want you to put something in comments because I don't think people stay this long.
Maybe not. I was actually considering on the way up here. I was going to do an experiment, which maybe I'll still do it on a subsequent episode, so I might not go into it. But it was going to be an engagement experiment. So I'll tell you after the show what it is, and I will drop it on you guys at some point. Because I think it'll be interesting. Because obviously YouTube gives you all the stats on how long people hung around for and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So,
is there any? Have we got any metrics off the other platforms?
Yeah. Look, I will say, obviously, people are doing some downloads on the other platforms, but there's probably not enough subscribers at this point in time. So if you haven't done so already, if you could subscribe to us on your audio platform of choice, that really helps out. The downloads are increasing every week, so we are getting more people on board every single week. But obviously, as that is the platform where we're actually investing money into, it'd be nice to get a bit more support on that.
Yeah.
Plus, that is the way that I consume the majority of my podcasts, because I just throw my headphones in while I'm doing other things, whether it's going for a walk in the morning, housework, whatever. Sometimes even if I'm just playing with Nate, I'll have like one headphone in so I can listen to something at the same time without us having the TV on or whatever, which might sound like I'm half-assing parenting. So,
dude, I've got YouTube going all the time. It's either YouTube or podcasts. Those are basically the things. Like if I'm in the office, I'll have a podcast going. I've got like little neck speakers if I'm working on cars in the shed.
Yep.
When I'm in here, I'll just set up a TV in there and I'll put YouTube on. YouTube's the best, man. It's the best. It's got so much stuff on it.
Yeah, and you can learn things. And again, when I say learn things, like I watch a lot of YouTube clips just on gaming now, which I've never even thought in a million years that I would do and enjoy it. But I do, because I get to learn things about the game that I didn't know.
I was listening to Bloomberg Technology News yesterday, which is a YouTube channel.
Yep.
It is very, very polished, proper presenter.
Just like this,
guests. Right? Well, I want to say this. Whenever they crossed over, you could hear the host typing and shuffling papers.
Right.
Now, I've got a pretty bad setup. I just bought myself a new gaming PC. It's a beast.
Yep.
And I've got one of these mics set up at home.
Right.
But I went to a lot of trouble to make sure that when I'm playing, that they can't hear my keys tapping, or like I had issues where they could actually hear the TV. Yep. So I played with the settings to drown it out. That's just to play video games with the boys. So I've gone to that effort. This had like 1 million views in it, like on it within a couple of hours of it coming out. Yet you could hear rustle, and I was like, "How is no one upset by that?" And I'll put it in the comments. I had a couple of likes already, but
it was just a mistake, right? It was
obviously
just a mistake.
Well, I'll listen to it because I actually found it fascinating. It was a really interesting. Right. Oh, they brought something up in it that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, Twitter is talking about having paid follows.
So, right, so like, okay.
They called, I was going to write, I was on a walk yesterday when I was listening to it. They're called like super follows or something.
Right.
Where if you like the content of I think it's basically an OnlyFans built into the Twitter platform.
Right.
And they think they're going to double their user base by the end of 2022.
Okay.
And they're going to double their revenue.
Wow.
So that paid model... What will suck, though...
So how does it work? So is it if there's only certain content that you can see that's behind a paywall, you need to be a super follower?
Basically, yeah, you pay to see a certain one of your person's premium content.
Right. So they're bell ends and titties. It's probably what it's going to end up being.
Quite potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. But I think they must have seen like what OnlyFans has done and realised, well, they want a piece of it.
Also put in the comments if you think Alex and I should start an OnlyFans. But like a joint one.
That would probably get more.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something that's annoyed me about tech as well, is that no one's innovating, it seems. Everyone's just imitating. It's
the equivalent of when, because I'm a big fast food fan, but when the fast food joints bring out a new burger and it's just a variation of the old one. And it's like, obviously, with KFC, for example, right? Because I had KFC yesterday. So they started with just the original recipe burger. And then they brought out the Zinger fillet, right? And that was a game changer. And then they're like, check it out, guys. Brand new burger. Zinger bacon and cheese. We've added bacon and cheese to the Zinger burger. And it's like they just do the different variations.
But
or when they get like
even
different...
better than what these guys are doing. So Instagram brought out Reels, which was just a copy of TikTok.
Yeah.
And like that's not a new idea. TikTok was the new idea. And you've just copied it.
But was that also in a response to the fact that TikTok was getting banned at the same time? Because it was...
Yeah, they thought they were going to buy it.
Yeah.
But now, to have Twitter basically... Now, I've said from the beginning, I wish there was a paid subscription. What will suck, though, and I'm sure this is what it'll end up like, but I'll be interested to see, will Twitter have advertising and a pay model that you see advertising on both?
Of course they will.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's like what has happened to me with Foxtel. Like, Foxtel's a paid model, but I see so much advertising on it because, I watch a lot of games that there's timeouts in. And it's like, just give me analysis, have some idiots talking about the game. That's all I want to see. But no, I don't get that. I get the same ads for NBA, 2K, whatever.
That's why I think my single race series that uses AI to stitch together the content, and you could probably have microphones in to all the drivers and all the teams, and you can immerse yourself in the content. I think that would be...
Yeah. And again, like, the biggest key to anything these days is to keep it inexpensive. And speaking of which, what were your thoughts on Brisbane and Southeast Queensland basically Stephen Bradburying the 2032 Olympic bid?
It's not Stephen Bradbury, because Stephen Bradbury actually went up against people. We didn't go up against anyone. So for those who don't know, we've won the bid.
Well, it's not official yet,
Yeah.
but we're basically celebrating that we've won the chance to host the 2032 Olympic Games because there are no other bidders that are on it.
I'll tell you my thoughts.
Yes.
It's the only logical one. This is the one that we should do. And the reason is the infrastructure already exists. So in history, the only Olympic Games in Olympics history to have been profitable was San Francisco.
Right.
The second time.
Okay.
Because they used the infrastructure from the first time.
But it was a rule from the IOC that you needed to build new infrastructure.
Yeah, no, they haven't
until now, which they have just changed. And again, I think
it must have changed back because San Francisco that was a known thing that was in like the 50s or something. They didn't have to build a new one.
Well, again, I think obviously since the 50s, like the IOC is one of the most corrupt organisations on the planet. Like this is the IOC's model. We're going to hold a tender process, which looks like you need to tender to us, but it's really which of you gives us the largest brown paper bags to hold it in your city. Then, when we bring our event to your city, which we're not bringing anything except the rights to put it on, you guys pay for everything, including you need to build new state-of-the-art infrastructure, even though you've got some old stuff, but it needs to be new because the Olympics is the Olympics, it's the pinnacle. So you need to invest all of this money to have a, 2 or 3 week event? Probably 2 weeks. Which the IOC gets the lion's share of the revenue from. And I think it's actually all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
you haven't even got the worst part yet, but carry on.
And then we just leave afterwards.
No, okay. Then you get all the people to pay to go, and the athletes who you go there to watch get nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, like the athletes do it for the chance to get potentially an endorsement deal for the next
slave
4
labor.
years. Yeah.
It's slave labour.
Yeah.
You could never do that in any other... Oh, sorry, it did come up in the last grand final, the dancers. Because apparently the dancers for the pre-game...
Which grand final?
Can't remember.
What sport was it?
Football.
Which football?
Yes. So the ad was like those dancers don't get paid, and they said, "Oh, well, this might give you the shot to get on such and such."
Bullshit.
They're wearing masks.
Yeah.
Like, I could go and say, "Yeah, I was that one. I was that one there in the top right." So, and I think they should be paid because there's a lot of money being made in those events, and we're paying tickets for it. Mm-hmm. These athletes, they're working their asses off, and for nothing. And a lot of them aren't allowed to be
we can't be professional. That's the whole thing about the Olympics, is you can't have gone pro and then go and compete at the Olympics.
Explain that to me. Why is that the case? I don't understand. That makes no sense to me. I thought it was supposed to be about finding the best of the best.
Well, look, I don't really know, but if I had to guess, I think it was because it was a tradition from the past, which made sense in the past, and then... Again, somewhere along the lines when professional athletes actually started getting paid good money, I think it was the only way for the Olympics to actually still hold on to some of the best athletes. Because anyone who's getting paid mad dollars isn't going to the Olympics. It's why often...
No, but they would if you could, but they can't.
No, but the Olympics doesn't want to pay them anything.
Yeah, I understand. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But Floyd Mayweather should be able to go... Like, wouldn't he like to go win a gold medal as the best boxer of all time and be the richest guy on it?
But Floyd Money Mayweather, if he's not going to do it for free.
But he can't. Under the current rules, he can't.
Yeah, I know. But that's the whole thing. But that's why I think that they do it, because it's like, we want to get all these up-and-comers before they turn pro, so we don't have to pay them anything. So if we can sell the prestige of the gold medal, it's the slave labour thing.
Yeah,
we get them for free.
It a rule. You would just say, you could easily say, that's fine, you don't get paid, but you get the glory of a gold medal. You don't create a rule where you say, you can't be pro. We need to investigate. Put in the comments if you know the reason.
Yeah, if you know what the actual reason is. But look, the IOC's corrupt, FIFA's corrupt, like all these big sporting organisations. Everyone's, I think not everyone, but a lot of people are starting to realise how corrupt these places are. And again, I'm not surprised that in this day and age, there is no country that's vying to hold an Olympics. Oh, here's something. So Japan's supposed to have an Olympics this year.
They will have it.
Yeah, because the IOC said they had to. So the Japanese government had come out going, we're considering either cancelling or postponing the Olympics because of COVID, because we have a global pandemic where we shouldn't be holding an event where you're bringing athletes from all across the world to our country. And the IOC actually came out and said, no, you won't be cancelling. We're in the business of organising Olympic Games, not cancelling them.
Yeah, that's not what I'd heard. So I don't know what news sort of...
What had you heard?
I just heard that it was discussions between the government, and it was the government that was saying, like, it depends on what the landscape of the time looks like. They're aiming for it, so they want all the athletes to train for it. But it's just whether it's safe or not.
But to even imagine that, like, imagine being one of those athletes. Like, I saw it last weekend at the UFC. So most UFC fighters, if you've got a fight booked, if you get a full camp, it's like 8 to 12 weeks that you'll train. So it's 3 months, let's call it. And then now you've got this situation with, global pandemics. You've got quarantine issues, right? If you're flying to different countries. So it was bizarre. I've not seen this happen before, where a fighter last weekend, like the fight before him finishes, and then they play his call-out music. So he walks out to the octagon, gets in the middle of the octagon. Chaz Skelly, I think is this guy's name. And then the announcer comes out and says that due to health circumstances, the other guy won't be making the walk. So this Chaz Skelly's literally in the middle of the octagon going,
what did I just do?
What the fuck? And the problem with the UFC and how the pay scale works is you can get a show bonus and a win bonus. and it's usually like they're usually the same money for most fighters. So he might have been getting paid 40 grand to show, which means they have to make weight and everything like that, and actually make the walk, and 40 grand if he wins. So they interviewed him afterwards, and they were like, "What's running through your head right now?" And he goes, "Do I still get my win bonus?" Like, it's half his paycheck.
Oh, so the guy didn't even...
No, so apparently what had happened was the guy just all of a sudden started having mad back spasms and couldn't compete out the back.
Okay.
So he couldn't actually make the walk. So Chaz Skelly's made the walk, so he gets his show money,
Sure.
but it's like 50% of my paycheck was based around me winning this fight, which I have trained for 3 months out of my life.
Spend more than 40 grand.
Which I've now had to do quarantine in, like where the event was, and I have to do quarantine when I get home. So it's probably 4 months out of my life. Now I've lost 50% of my paycheck because he can't compete. So what about these Olympic athletes who are being told to train for an event that they're not getting paid for that might not happen anyway?
Oh, well, at least they know it's zero. At least they know.
Yeah, I guess so. You're not really losing anything, are you?
Yeah, we've got to wrap this up because I've got a custom coming.
Sweet as. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next RDO.
Bye.